Welcome back to another episode of Chad and Steve Have a Podcast. In this episode, we're going to be asking the question, is there still space left on YouTube for, well, YouTubers? Dolly Parton and country music, the YouTube 5-star rating system, remember that? And is the YouTube trending tab just a joke? Or is it a conspiracy? So get out your tinfoil hats and let's get started. Hope you guys enjoy the show.
May I just say that was probably the best intro that I've heard.
They just keep getting better and better, don't they?
They really do. And the other thing that keeps getting better and better is the audience, the ever-growing audience, which now it feels like we're having a conversation. And it feels like there's maybe hundreds of people listening to us.
Oh, you have some people listening, huh? I know. It's funny because it was the holdup, I think, was the Apple podcast, iTunes, because it took, and I kind of thought, well, because that's like a big chunk of the deal. A lot of people want to listen on there, and it just takes longer to get on there. And then they didn't notify me that the shows were on there, and I just went and I thought, well, I'll go look at it. And oh, well, our show is on there. So, hey, our podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts now.
Congratulations, Steve. We made a thing. And people are listening to it now. And to all of the people who are listening to it now, thank you and welcome and hello and welcome to Chad and Steve Have a Podcast, as you heard in the intro.
That's right, exactly.
Good.
How's your week been?
It's been a really good week, actually. We're just kind of like closing things up for the summertime, something you wouldn't maybe know about because it's now getting into like single digits and frost and ice and things like that. So I have to clean up the garage and move cars in and like pack all the patio stuff away, sadly.
Right.
So that's been taking up most of the spare time during the week. What about yourself?
Oh my God. This week has been a mess. So we got, we've got the bathroom remodel going on.
Yes.
Which is a thing in and of itself. It's just like, it's a constant disruption all day long in the house. And everything you do is just a constant disruption because there's guys going in and out and can we shut off the water? Can we shut off the power? We got to do this. And so then on like Wednesday, all of a sudden the guys wrapped up and I went to turn on the faucet in the kitchen and it's just like a trickle of water. There's nothing coming out of that. I'm like, what did you guys do? And like, nothing. So I looked around and it was only the kitchen faucet. Everything else had plenty of water pressure. So it wasn't anything they did. It was just a weird coincidence that all of a sudden this picked the time to do that. And then it was like later on, and this is like one of the hottest days we've had in forever. It's like 95. It's like 1 billion in Celsius or something.
Can we talk about that for 1 second? Is that like a normal thing, or is this like a really weird like anomaly which is going on?
It's weird. This summer has been very unusually hot. I mean, we don't usually get weather up into the 90s like this, and especially this late into October. It's usually, where I live, it's pretty much the same year round. It's it's like, I always like to say it's room temperature, it's kind of like basically that is the weather. And so, so it was this super hot day. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, it's not cooling off in the house and that the fan, the air conditioning's running and sure enough, it was just blowing out air. And so the air conditioning was the same day that the plumbing thing stopped and the air conditioning stopped. And then, so we had to get that guy, and that guy came out this morning, fixed the air conditioning. Plumber's here right now, fixing the sink. Guys working on the bathroom. It's like, oh, and it was a trifecta on Wednesday. Then the internet went out too. And that's something that also rarely goes out. And, I was there watching a movie and all of a sudden, bloop, it's gone. And everything I do, it depends on the internet. So
including the movie that you were watching.
Yeah,
remember
exactly.
When you could just watch a movie and it'd be okay if the internet went out because you own the movie. And
right.
Into a DVD
and it's everything I have is on Wi-Fi. But anyways, that's enough of my moaning and groaning about these these things in my life.
That's the bathroom update, and we might hear a little bit of something in the background.
Yeah,
and you might hear a little something in the background here because we have a furnace issue as well. We have a furnace guy here right now. He promised to keep quiet, but we'll see how that ends up. working
Well,
out for us.
luckily, these microphones we're using seem to only pick up within our general vicinity. I think that's the case of most microphones.
I believe that is the case. What would you like to talk about today, Steve?
You know, one thing that you mentioned a couple of weeks ago to me, and I think that's that you text messaged me about the Dolly Parton movie. Have you? Obviously, you saw this Dolly
Yeah.
Parton documentary, and after you said, you know, it was really interesting, I thought, well, I guess I'll check it out because I kind of was, after coming off of watching the Paris Hilton documentary, I thought, yeah, I'll check out Dolly Parton. Totally different type of documentary, but equally interesting in the way she formed her persona, her she's larger than life, you know, and she formed this early on, and she knew at a very early stage in her recording career of how she wanted to present herself, and she hasn't deviated from that in her entire career. In fact, it's so, I didn't know much about Dolly Parton. I knew some of her songs, but it's kind of outside of my wheelhouse. That kind of music is not
Yes.
really country, you know, it's not my thing. But um I didn't know that she's never been photographed without wearing her wigs. And her husband, who she's been married to for 40 years or something, and he has
Virtually unknown.
he's like this, and I just, it's so weird. It's like, how careful has she been to create this persona? But as near as I can tell, the persona kind of is largely her. She
Yeah.
is that kind of strong, bubbly personality who is also just knows what she wants, and just, you know, takes no prisoners basically. You know, it's pretty cool.
And she's managed to do it, like present that character to the world where you feel like you do know and you can relate to her. And she is super nice. And I grew up in the 80s. And as a little boy in the 80s, we all knew Dolly Parton for one reason. And it had nothing to do with her musical career. She was just always known as, the singer with the large breasts.
Right,
Uh, and
right.
and she never, I mean, obviously she uh, it was those are her breasts. So, but she never put them out in front, pun intended, simply to use that as an attractant. That was another part of it. But Dolly Parton, even as a kid and kind of knowing her, is like, yeah, she's the blonde with the big boobs. Her songs were great. She has an amazing voice. Obviously, it goes without saying, and she has the type of voice that, like, that's enough. That would have gotten her to, and especially in country and western music where the majority of songs are written by like a few songwriters, and it's just a bunch of people who just have great voices and a good stage presence and look a certain way. But to see so much depth from someone who came across as being like so sincere and nice and genuine, to see that it's like, yes, of course it's a character, and of course it's, carefully managed and maintained and sculpted, but she's done it in such a classy way, and that stuck with me more than anything. I stopped watching um, when we had finished watching the documentary. That was the first thing I said. I just remember that line that she said, and I'll do it no justice because I don't remember it verbatim, but she was talking about how, like, she could use her platform to take a stand about something which is like potentially a politically divisive issue or whatever it is. And as much as she understands that, there's people that watch her, um, who might feel uncomfortable in knowing that this is a conversation, or this is a topic which needed to come up in the relationship that they have with Dolly Parton. And she didn't say it in that many words, but that's the way I kind of digested it as, where she was just so aware that people clearly love her and think differently. And as much as she could use her platform to amplify a particular message, she respects that her platform is there in the first place because of those diverse opinions. So we leave those at the door. And here we talk about having a good time and listening to music and singing songs and all of the rest. And then when you watch it and you realize that there's so much depth and whatnot to her stories, and the stuff that she was doing in such a subtle way, and conversations and topics that she was talking about through her music, through the way that she could put it out there and allow people to digest it. It's so inspiring. One of the most inspiring celebrities that
Mhm.
I can think of in recent note. That's why I ranted and raved about it to you.
Yeah, I mean, she's a true rags to riches story. I mean, it's an incredible story the way she's done it, and I think that more people could probably take a page out of her book about um, I don't know. You don't always have to offer an opinion on everything. You know, we've kind of
And
gotten to this point where everybody feels like they have to have everything that happens in the world. Well, what side are you on? Where do you
right,
fall in this thing? And
right.
she's like, no, I'm not going to touch that. My fans aren't here for that. They're here to listen to me sing and tell my stories and, get what they can out of the song. She's written over 3,000
1,000 songs.
songs.
There's 1,000 songs that we have yet to hear that Dolly Parton has written. And I've heard the same thing about Prince. Apparently, Prince has
Yeah.
tens of thousands of songs. But I mean, this is the echelon that we're talking about with Dolly Parton. And you said earlier that you didn't really much listen to country and Western music. I am certainly not a fan of country and Western music. However, there's a time pre like mid 70s where country and Western music was I'm a little biased because my father was a country and Western
I,
singer
I
during
meant to
that time.
I meant to ask you about that. Your father was a well-known Canadian country and Western singer,
Yes,
right?
yodeler, professional. He was he, he was accepted. He passed the bar for the yodeler's examination. No, he was a yodeler. He was a world Guinness Book record owning yodeler who yodeled um, a, a full yodel is like three falsetto. You have to hit a certain amount of notes for it to classify as a yodel. And he did one in 1.9 seconds, and he owned that record for a little while. And then he set the record for the longest period of time yodeling consistently, and he did it for 7.5 hours. But not only did he do it for 7.5 hours, he set the record standing on top of the CN Tower. And there's a picture on his Wikipedia page of him standing on top. They don't even allow that anymore. This was way back in the
Right.
80s when there was no safety cables. There was a camera guy up there with them, literally standing on the top of a building, the wind blowing about and whatnot.
What's his name? What's his name?
My dad's name is Don Reynolds. Don with
Reynolds.
2 N's. Reynolds was Don Reynolds. And so that was part of it. But he was also just a traditional country and Western singer. That's what he did. He wanted to be a singer and songwriter. And for 50 years, he was a professional musician, yodeler, and singer-songwriter. He released several albums, several which charted. He worked with numerous people from Chuck Berry to Elvis Presley to whatnot. So going through like his picture books and like his memories and all of the rest is just completely crazy. I bring all of that up because he did this type of music. I think of Marty Robbins and Hank Williams, and just it is all sad and whatnot. But it had during that time, and Dolly Parton was wonderful at it. It was basically an entire song was just one story, and that's what I find is sometimes kind of missing in modern music is the thought of storytelling through it. And that was another thing which really resonated as far as Dolly Parton is concerned, her ability to tell a story and whatnot.
So you never grew up really interested in country music?
No. By the time I started getting around to it, it was in the 80s, and that's when it started turning into like just kind of really no offense to people who like it, but it sounds very twangy to me, and it's just usually the subject matter was about things which I didn't relate to. I got into like progressive rock and whatnot, so I clearly was like more over here. And I certainly went through times in teenagers where like I hated country and western. I hate it. It's so horrible. Garth Brooks is terrible.
Yeah.
I think I've grown old enough to be like, obviously everything has an awesomeness to it, but going back in history and seeing some of like the older stuff, which I think is like really overlooked, that's where like that sweet spot is.
It's one of the things I find I enjoy about getting older is appreciating music that I used to didn't like, or it was because I was young and I thought it wasn't cool to like it or something. And now I can appreciate all kinds of music that back when I was a teen, I wouldn't have admitted to. And I think, wow, that's pretty good music now. But I've never been into too much country, I got to say. And I heard a quote from somebody once who said modern country music is basically the Eagles in the 1970s.
Yes.
It's sort of because it's basically pop music. I don't know. I do enjoy listening to Hank Williams. I mean, that's some really, that's like crying your beer original kind of country music right there. And I like bluegrass, just real down home kind of sound. It just sounds so authentic. Yeah.
And a lot of the bands that I listen to and I like now wouldn't be classified as country, but you can see so much country influence, slide guitars and stuff
Yeah.
now, and just fiddles and violins and whatnot, harmonicas. So like, and kind of traditional stuff that you see from there, kind of like being mixed into like more modern music or like those elements. And I think that's what's awesome about it. So you can go back to this time and see
Yeah.
it in its raw state.
They had a Michael Stevens on Vsauce a couple of years ago had a video on, I think it was Vsauce. Yeah, it was. I can always just picture Michael Stevens, hey, Vsauce jumping up. But it was had to do with the kind of music that people tend to like is fixed in time, and it all comes down. There's like studies on this. In the time you were, I think it's like 18 in your later high school years,
Yeah.
the music you were listening to then is like kind of where you're stuck. A lot of people are kind of stuck, and you see this with the dad rock syndrome, where guys like and all of this, and it kind of occurs to me that yes, I liked that music and I like it still, but there was a point where I started listening to newer music, and now I think a lot of the music that's coming out today is some of the best music ever produced. I love especially some of the indie and alternative rock that's out right now is just so good. I'm like obsessed with this band called The Beths. They're from New Zealand, and Sylvan Esso, like electronic duo and this kind of thing. I love the sound of that. And so I think it's good to at least listen to these other things. And even now I have an appreciation for like metal growling and like death metal and some of this stuff that I never really gave a whole lot of listen to, but understanding what it is they're doing puts a different spin on it. And same with rap music. I never typically listened to that other than if it was part of a different song, but understanding it just goes a long way to kind of really appreciating it.
I'm certainly willing to give something more space and more time to be like, I understand this. And also now with a child in the world, you see how like even the YouTube channels, which I used to just kind of all sweep under the rug, is like all kids channels are this, all kids content are this. I started watching Paw Patrol. I'm down with Paw Patrol. I'm down with Peppa Pig. I'm super down with Peppa Pig. Like there's a bunch of stuff which I would have just initially passed, and then you stop and I obviously I see it through my daughter's eyes, so that's wonderful. But you also kind of understand what things are there for, and perhaps today's rap music isn't. I loved rap music growing up. NWA and Ice-T and Ice Cube during that time in the early '90s. I was just, and even before then with like Public Enemy and whatnot. So I was very much open to it, and I had my father who was a country and western singer, and to him it would be like, just cut that, it's just all the same thing, they're just talking. It's like, Dad, are you missing? It's like, well, there's a lot of swearing, and it's like, I get that part, Dad, but at the same time, like they're da 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 da. But I guess that's it. But you go through so many more years where you're still not comfortable acknowledging the things that you don't like, and like you say, you get stuck in that like 18, 19, 20 years old when you used to listen, because the band for me was Radiohead. And it was like at this time that I was brooding and learning about how to become an adult and learning how not to be a kid. And so like Tom York and Radiohead just kind of spoke to me. They just gave me, and so like you realize, wow, music has depth and art and meaningful and nuance and all of the rest. So you're like every single moment that you sit and listen to the Radiohead album beginning to end, for endless hours, you remember that. So now when you hear the song 25 years later, you go back to that time of like, life was so good back then. That's when we used to just, hang out and da 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 and listen to it in the car. Of course I love, Karma Police. It's my favorite da da da, because you associate all of these other wonderful memories. And anybody that goes to therapy learns about how like when something triggers you, it's usually not the thing that's triggering you. It's like a feeling deep down inside that gets triggered. And that's so much more powerful and like uncontrollable, if you will, when you listen to something. And that's why all of that music has this wonderful like gloss on it, because it's like, of course, they don't need to do anything else because they already captured you at a time that was just perfect. And that's what shaped your interests.
For me, it was the early to mid 80s alternative and new wave music. And I can today, I can hear a song and then kind of play this game of what year did it come out, and I can almost always guess it because I associate a particular song with a person I was with, a thing I was doing, or something, and I know exactly, and I can kind of gauge those years depending on where I was in high school and when I graduated, and those few years in that small segment there. And do
There's,
you ever do you know a channel, Adam Neely? Do you know Adam Neely?
I do not.
Wow, he has a YouTube channel that is all about music theory, mostly about. He does some really kind of hardcore music nerd stuff, but he had so many interesting takes on music and the things we listen to. And interesting that you were talking about rap, because rap is the one style of music that is never covered unless it's like ironically or something, but it's not something that people, there's almost a thing that rap, if you create a rap, it's yours and it only identifies with you. And I think that's pretty cool.
And it took so long for rap to actually be kind of lumped in with all of the other music side. There was always like, best record, and that would be like, if you wrote a bluegrass song, you can be best album of rock. Sure, even heavy metal would, if you did a good enough one, you'd be. And all of these amazing, until I think it was like in the mid '90s, Outkast released a groundbreaking album, and that ended up winning best. I think that was the first time that like a best album had gone to rap. But that part of what makes rap music, to me at least, awesome is it's this entire kind of like movement and culture which is separate, and it assimilated so much. There's country and western influences in rap, and that's the amazing, that's the awesome thing. The poetry, like the traditional like coffee shop poetry style like influences that it has and whatnot. I love the heads up on Adam Neely. I just pulled up his YouTube
it's
channel.
a really Wyatt turned me onto that channel because he listens to or watches a lot of music channels and started showing me videos from him, and I just get drawn into them. Some of them can be fairly long videos, but they're always very interesting. And by the way, did you ever see Radiohead in concert?
One time only. I don't remember exactly how the opportunity came about, but right before they released OK Computer, they came to Toronto and they played a small nightclub for 250 people.
Oh my God.
I had no appreciation of what I was doing in the moment that I was doing it, and actually for even years afterwards. But they played OK Computer from beginning to end before anybody had heard it, before any single had been released, at this little small private show in Toronto, which I just happened to somehow stumble across.
That is so cool.
So it really was. It's my best concert experience ever. And it was like this one random one where it wasn't even like I didn't even buy a ticket. I just stumbled into the opportunity, and I was with someone who just happened to whatever. And I think the other tickets were like a radio contest or something like that.
I saw Radiohead. They were the opening act for Bjork. I went to.
Oh, that must have been a good show. So you went. You went for Bjork purposes, which
I did. Yeah, I definitely
speaks a lot about your musical taste. I would love to see Bjork.
Bjork is amazing. Oh my God. There's actually, getting back to that Adam Neely channel, he had a video on these musical modes, they're called. I don't know. It's a real kind of deep musical term. You kind of have to be in the thing, but she has. She's one of the few people who's ever written a song in Mixolydian mode. I'm probably saying that wrong or something. And it's that Army of Me. And it's the way that I can't even describe exactly what the mode is, but it's one of the way she did that. It's like one of the most challenging ways to write a song ever. And that's why nobody does it, but she was able to pull it off in that song.
And an amazing song and an incredible video. And for anybody who might be listening, who doesn't know about Bjork, before Lady Gaga made it popular to wear crazy things at award shows, Bjork was literally doing this a decade earlier. She went to the Grammy Awards or whatever it was at whatever time, and she dressed up as a swan or something like that. And this was at a time where it's like, that was completely unprecedented. And it's like, I get that you can kind of get it's how crazy, you can make your dress and whatnot. But yeah, Bjork was doing it back in the day. And she was being nominated for songs like Army of Me, which is what an incredible time period musically for her. She was doing so much, which was just so next level. She's decades ahead of where
She
is
still
one of
is.
those people.
She's really innovative in her, just that what she does to finds things to make music with. It's really it's pretty cool.
And the way that she layers sounds and the way it's all produced. And yes, so there you go. A highly recommended Bjork. And you got to see Radiohead open for them. That's what a cool concert that
And
was.
she was in did you ever see a movie called Dancer in the Dark?
No.
It's the only movie she was in, and she claims at the time that she'll never be in another movie because it was so draining and it was so depressing. It's like the most, if you have lists of like the most depressing movies ever made, Dancer in the Dark is like usually is way up there on that list. It's a really good movie. She did an excellent job in that. I mean, it is really sad, and I could tell it just drained her. But apparently now she's going to be in another movie coming out next year by. This is also getting into movie nerd stuff. Robert Eggers, who made The Witch and The Lighthouse, and now he's making a movie about Vikings in like the 5th century or something. And so she's going to be in that.
I've heard the same thing about making movies. I heard Jerry Seinfeld once say, making a bad TV show episode or making a bad episode of a TV show sucks because it's like a few days of work and the payoff isn't good. He's like, with a movie, you work on it for like 2 years. Right. And if it doesn't pay off, you're like, that's 2 years of my life I dedicated to doing something, or a year of my life dedicated. It's like, I mean, you're getting behind one thing and it's such an enormous amount of work being put just into one thing. And I guess the thought being, if it flunks or it fails, or if it just doesn't end up being good, it's just what a colossal amount of time it must feel like you're wasting.
You just have to wait, 10 or 15 years for it to become a cult classic. People will rediscover it,
That's the secret. Have you ever applied for the streaming awards or the Webby Awards?
Yeah, I did.
Award shows that are going on.
Years ago, I did, and that was back when I was, actually actively using Facebook, and I was trying to get people to. And I didn't have a huge following. This was probably 2014 or something. I think it was the Webbies.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the one. And I'm not sure how I got involved in that. Either somebody nominated, I didn't know anything about it. Somebody must have nominated me or something. I don't know. And so then I was just trying to get, but I was up against, so I was like in like this educational category, and so I was up against, Vsauce and all these other shows that were obviously going to win. And so now I didn't get any farther with that. How about you?
You managed to touch on exactly what I was getting at. I was on the YouTube trending page today.
AKA, I thought you were on trending.
Oh no, wouldn't that be great? I was searching through it, and I noticed that the top categories of content on the trending page is either, I guess, just the default trending page, which is kind of everything all together. And that usually gets monopolized, especially now if Apple releases a phone. The trending tab, just literally every single video is all the large channels version of whatever the Apple phone is. And then the number one video is the announcement video. And then all of the commentary and whatnot.
As a quick aside, the only Apple iPhone videos I always watch are Jack's films when he comes up with a new iPhone video.
Oh, when he comes up with
he just came out with one. I think it was yesterday. Anyways, I didn't mean to.
There actually used to be quite a run. There used to be a good amount of good spoof videos and whatnot that used to get a lot of attention. I don't see that as much now. It really seems to be most people go with the unboxings and the reviews and the tech standards. But I remember once when they went to the extra long phone for the first time, and people were like, wow, look how long the phone was. And I remember someone did it. I don't remember who it was, but they made a prop phone and it was comically large. It was like 3 feet long, and they showed taking a landscape, like a wide landscape picture with it, and it could capture like an entire skyline because it was a 3 foot long phone. Anyhow, I digress of that. So the top categories on trending is music, gaming, news, movies, and then fashion and beauty. And at least that's what it is for me. And I would love to know if that actually changes based upon whatever, but that actually seemed pretty accurate, because whenever I look at all of the content which is on trending, it either is a movie trailer or it's a game trailer or some kind of gameplay video, or it's obviously whatever the top news story is, or it's a late show comedian with a little bit about whatever the latest news story is. And I realized how small of the space is for people who actually make content on YouTube to be promoted by YouTube. And you start to look at all of the content that does get promoted. And as much as I guess you're making content out of it because the movie trailer for the new Batman movie it's a YouTube video that I'm watching, and that gets a billion. It's literally it's a platform to talk about like, oh, here, ultimately it's this movie company and these actors and actresses that like, that's what's being done. And that's what this, and there was nothing which was content, which was created for this platform and designed to be promoted through this platform. And I was just surprised that there wasn't even one button.
Yeah,
along with the music. I get that 90% of the videos or whatever the ridiculous percentage is of people who just come to use YouTube to watch music videos. I totally get it. But there's also a community of millions and millions and millions of content creators who would love one of those categories to be just like YouTube, just
right.
YouTube like content for this platform, for the people who are watching it right now, who want to watch content which is created for this, not to watch a trailer for a movie to go see, not to listen to or watch the music video of a song which they can download and watching content which was created for the purpose of coming to YouTube and consuming content, not consuming television content on YouTube, not streaming it, not and that's what I see with Netflix. They're really getting behind Netflix originals and I know that YouTube's done that, but I don't know what the misfire is. Why is it still just the platform for?
Well, this is I was just looking through my trending tab, and you're right. It's I would say 80% music and this is just the general trending. I haven't gone to the actual categories. And then I had to scroll down maybe to 30 or so before I got to an actual YouTuber making it looks like an animation video or something. And you're right, then comes some Apple iPhone stuff, and it is all very predictable. But their top categories, their categories are trending now, music, gaming, news, and movies.
And I went deep on gaming, thinking, okay, gaming is a really great spot because that's a space where a lot of content creators on YouTube are making gaming content, but that's not what they're giving you. What that tab ended up at least being for me are literally just trailers for like the same thing. So instead of it being a movie trailer, now it's a video game trailer, or it's some kind of very well produced kind of like thing. It's not just that, PewDiePie does a game play with me or whatever, and it's a 10-minute long video and it gets 3.2 million views. Why isn't that being promoted? This is content by a dude who uploads content on this platform every single day for years, is the biggest at doing it, and his videos actually get that volume, but those don't get promoted.
So why is it then sometimes I'll look at like a Gus Johnson video. He's a good example, and he'll be trending.
He's a guy who will sometimes pop
and it'll say on their number 15 on trending or whatever, but that wouldn't show up then on this now trending page. I mean, how are people finding these trending if he's not in? What category would that fit into if they only have 3 different categories?
And there's point number 2. Let's talk about the categories: music, gaming, news, movies. Man, that's kind of all entertainment right there. And then you have fashion and beauty, and I get that. That's a big component. So
I don't have fashion and beauty.
Kudos for fashion and beauty, because most of the people that are doing fashion and beauty and trending there are indeed YouTubers creating YouTube content for the sake of being consumed through YouTube.
I don't have fashion and beauty on mine.
Oh, isn't that interesting? Maybe that's because that's something which is more in line with when I'm signed into the Clean My Space account. Those are the types of channels that were more so whatever. So, and like I said, it could be. However, I guarantee you, music, gaming, news, and movies are not there because we consume that or I consume that content with that channel. I don't.
Right. Yeah. That's really weird. And there should be. Why isn't there a category for at least educational content
or how-to
DIY? I mean, that would all kind of, if they're looking at categories this broad, you would just put that in an educational content. That's weird. I don't know. And I mean, I get how trending works, and it's again, it's all about the algorithm thing, and I think it has to do with how many people are watching during a given time period, how long they're watching, whether they're watching the full thing, and it has to be, I think, within a compressed time period, and so it just
Right.
automatically goes to the top. And obviously music videos would be ripe for that, but I'm not sure how you get other channels who are making other content to rise to the top like that. How do you do that without I don't know.
I think they have the space, and like you said, I get the trending page. I get that it needs to be their way to promote the Universal movie, which paid YouTube
Yeah,
ridiculous amounts of money to be able to promote, and that helps the platform be free and it allows creators to like. I get how the cycle works. I'm asking, or I'm curious if there's a space for that to also represent, here's this part, but there's also this new tab right on the end of it, right after whatever, right after movies, and it's a little red tab, and it just, that's the YouTube red tab, and what that is YouTube channels or YouTubers or whatever that might be, or that's a spot. And sometimes I notice when I go on my home screen, they used to put one of the top kind of like feed tiers was like up and coming or something like that, and I
right.
thought that was a great idea. I actually
Yeah,
discovered a few, but it's touch and go. It's the only space that they put it. There should be a trending. There should be an up and coming tab.
right.
Should
why,
there
why
not?
did why would they have gotten
Should
rid
there
of that?
just be one? Should there not just be like a Billboard 200? Should there not just be a constant top 100 videos on the platform at the minute? In the past 24 hours, these are the top videos, whether it be a K-pop song, or the latest apology video from a YouTuber who had or whatever.
Need more apology videos. There's just
And maybe I'm starting to sound like all of those people who wave their fists in the air, but I really noticed how difficult and uphill a battle it is to do content which is unique and different and fall into one of these categories. And one of the reasons why I brought it up in the first place was because of the Streaming Awards. And their categories were the exact same thing. We, for the past few years, have been trying to, we've submitted, or like whatever, whatever that word is that I can't find, not volunteered, entered ourselves into consideration.
Nominated, right? You nominate
Nominated.
yourself.
That's the word. I'm going to write that one. Nominated. We nominate ourselves, but we end up being in a category with, as you said earlier, Michael from Vsauce, and because we're all in the same, like science channels are in here, and education channels are in here, and fashion and beauty and lifestyle, and all sorts of, we are in the exact same category. How to clean and how to woodwork is the exact same category, and we would go and get the exact same award. And that just kind of seems a little limiting right now. I don't know why.
It does. And then like there's channels that should, if anything, they should be in streaming, or not streaming, in those trending areas. Yeah. And I sent you a link to a channel. What was that? Oh, I know what it was. It was Stuff Made Here. I think I sent that to you earlier this week. And I was blown away by this channel because he started this channel in March of this year, and he has 1.1 million subscribers, and this is as of mid-October, and every video is like 12 million views, 6.2, 4.1. But the thing that okay, and the videos are interesting. It's him. He does like computerized robots and does to make crazy things. That's what people want to see on YouTube, is just crazy things. But what struck me was how he from the start was on top of the YouTube game. The titles, the thumbnails, it was almost like he's been a YouTuber for years and all of a sudden just decided to just plug it in or something. It was, and I can't put my finger on this channel, and I can't help but wonder, is this really just this one guy? Or because everything he's doing on this channel is exactly what YouTube says you got to do to make it work on YouTube,
and everybody else is doing it. So what's the difference? Everybody else is doing it. I saw the thumbnails, they're good, but everybody does those thumbnails. I saw the titles, they're good, but everybody does those titles. There's nothing which
His
stands as a real unique identifier. With no offense, I saw the stuff too, and it's interesting and it's whatnot, but it's like there's a lot of that. This
Yeah.
isn't a groundbreaking kind of moment where someone's like really starting a new thing. This is literally just someone coming by and, as you say, going through all of those best practices, and for some reason, like lucking out or like winning the
Yeah,
YouTube lottery
it
of
is. And
getting.
the only reason I know about it is because it showed up in my home feed. You know, this is something that you might be interested in. And so I watched it and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then I looked at the numbers and I was like, holy crap,
So here's
how
a
does this
question.
happen? And I couldn't help but thinking, and this is me putting on my cynical cap here, is like, is there like a bigger entity behind this channel? I mean, these projects he makes are like thousands of dollars worth of materials. I can't imagine how much time and effort. And it doesn't, it's so weird because we were talking about how fun it is to go back to an older YouTube channel and see where they started and how their videos were so awkward. And there's none of this. This guy just started right out of the gate, just hitting home runs.
And it's like, and you're not the only one doing this. So it's like, why are you the one that hits home runs? And I will call it out. I've noticed, I mean, I don't really have a name for it. Maybe it's like a YouTube surge. I don't know if you've ever noticed this with your channel, but ever since probably the beginning of this year, maybe the end of last year, we started having videos get recommended during kind of a certain time of the video upload. We used to, for years, we would just upload a video. And then sometimes out of the gate, within the first couple of hours, you kind of know if a video is going to like hit it or not. And sometimes you upload a video and it doesn't, but then randomly along the way, it hits. Or you do a couple changes to it and it hits a little bit better. And that helps it gets recommended a little bit better. So it ended up doing a little bit better. But we started noticing it was more of not an arbitrary thing, but it was something more automatic than that. I used to be able to look at a video and be like, okay, this video is going to do well. And if it doesn't, or if it did well, I'm like, I understand why that video did well. Sometimes I would put a video which I didn't think well and it would do well. And then I would look at it after a while and be like, okay, I think I understand why that video did well. But then there's videos that shouldn't do well, but then get this incredible push of views.
Yeah.
And it's random sometimes. It used to be like a video would either get it or not get it. And now videos get all of these kind of YouTube pushes. It sounds very conspiratory.
Well, I wonder if this is like YouTube has a little code written in there to occasionally boost up smaller channels.
Or do you become a channel which they just become comfortable with?
Mm.
And they're like, we can trust you. Because I really tried to relate it to us because we've been doing this for 10 years and we've never experienced that. However, during lockdown during all of this, when cleaning content became a thing and when the hashtag with me started becoming the thing, and they certainly wanted to start promoting a certain type of safe content, which maybe addressed some certain things or like whatever. And I think you kind of get, not inner circle, but I think you kind of get on a list and you're almost like, whitelisted maybe is the best way to kind of word it. And you get this push, and it usually happens overnight because we launch our videos in the late morning or the earlier afternoon traditionally. And then I'll go to bed and the video will be, doing okay. So I pretty much know what it's probably going to be doing. We now get on our YouTube Creator Studio, we now get the where your video sits out of the past 10 uploads. And it's incredibly handy because it helps you understand kind of the way that videos kind of ebb and flow and whatnot. But I've noticed overnight, I get this massive, so I'll go to bed and the video will be like 5 out of 10 and it's tracking and I guess it's going to be a good video. That's what I thought it was going to be. And then you go to bed and you wake up and it's like, oh, wow, this one, did it trend overnight? And it's not doing anything now. And then when I look at the graphs and whatnot, you see this huge surge. You get 70,000 views on that one day. And then the next day it's like back to normal. So I don't know if I'm going too kind of deep on it. I know we came from a place where that wasn't the case. And that is now the case, as in we release videos which should do well, and they do incredibly well. And we do videos which certainly we don't try to release videos that aren't going to do well, but they can't be zingers every single time. So you just, some of the stuff which is kind of filler or like whatever. And that stuff just hits and does crazy. It makes you wonder if it's so much the individual elements of the video, and not so much your channel's kind of in a position where it's like, we can trust them, it's safe content, we can, if we're ever stuck for this type of content and the algorithm just needs to promote some whatever, here's the go-to guys, figure out whatever their latest video is, so long as it passes these basic metrics, feed this one into the machine for as long as it starts performing. Once those numbers start to dip and we realize that it's like we're feeding it too much and it doesn't have the ability to support it, we pull it. Or like some of our videos, it stays kind of in that environment and it just keeps doing well. And those are the videos which end up every day. You wake up and it's like, man, I got another 30,000 views on this video from 2.5 years ago. And the video is just kind of banging along. You're in that space. I work with YouTube partner managers, and I've taught, and clearly they don't even know, like, clearly this is the algorithmic stuff that they don't talk about. But out of all of my years of experience, this is the only logical explanation that I can come up with for this.
Well, my guess is that you were kind of hitting on it there when even your partner manager don't understand the algorithm, because I don't think YouTube doesn't want anybody to really understand the algorithm. And by its very nature, the way I understand algorithms, I am far from a computer guy, but the way I understand algorithms is that they're kind of designed in such a way that there is really nobody who fully understands how that works, because it's constantly kind of evolving and learning and changing. And that's the whole point of an algorithm. It's my guess is that there are so many points of contact on any one video that will trigger a higher, I guess, promotion or just for people to see that video. And this can be all the surface level things from your thumbnail, your titles, all the stuff everybody always talks about, to really minute things that I suspect it probably gets down to, like how long your video might be as it's compared to other similar types of videos that did well, and so there's like probably thousands of these different points. And when you have a video that does well, it could be any number of those, but somehow all of those switches were hit at the right combination that worked. And I don't know if anybody ever figures it out. I mean, everybody thinks they really understand how to best work the algorithm, or at least people who've been producing YouTube videos for a while, but I think that's a lot of surface level stuff we're doing. We're trying our best, but I think when it comes down to it, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason anybody can pin down. And I think it's intentional, because they wouldn't want people to know the secret sauce exactly. Otherwise, everybody would do it.
They went through that. They went through that with their search engine. We've had conversations on this podcast about search engine optimization in the early days, where you used to be able to get a page ranked number 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, and 9 on the first page of results simply by keyword stuffing or doing this or doing that. And the same happened for YouTube with video. And the same has happened with videos for years. There was the reply girl video stage where, like, you could, back in the days where you could literally make a video reply to videos uploaded on YouTube. For those of you who listen to the podcast for like nostalgic YouTube stuff, do you remember there used to be 5 stars and you used to rate a video 5 stars?
I got a funny story about that. I'll tell you in a second.
Actually, I lost my train of thought there, because
you were on the nostalgia train.
I was on the nostalgia train. But sorry, yes, that's right, because YouTube has gone through this before, where like I brought up the reply girls, where it's like you could reply, and then the title of that video would be in your reply, and you didn't even need to say anything, and you would everybody, of course, is going to learn how to game the system. And I've heard, we've all heard something, but I've heard that there's so many people involved in just like the larger algorithms that like no one individual person who's working on a component of it understands the complexity of like the whole system of algorithms. And I'm sure it's
exactly
that way. It should be designed to be smart enough to not be gamed by our stupid human brains.
How would you possibly, figure out this Stuff Made Here channel? How does a channel go viral in that short a period?
So I think
I've never heard of this happening ever.
So I looked at the channel, and if I remember correctly, I think it was the third or fourth video that got released was the one that at least got a bunch of views.
I mean, his first video has almost 400,000 views, and
So
then
that's probably at this point with 1 million subscribers, that's a lot of people probably going back to the first video. So I
right.
think the first one was like, it was 2.2 million or something like that.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, 2.3 million views, and that was his fourth video.
So based upon the logic that we were just talking about, if he managed to just jump into that category rather quickly with one fluke video, if you will, YouTube could be like, wow, this is great content. This one video did very well. And then my thought is, if you follow that up once or twice and they kind of still give you that promotion and you manage to do it again and manage to do it again, they really get behind you. I think of like Jeffree Star and Davey 504, people who like one day like no one whatever, and then all of a sudden there was just like every single video just trends because you just like get in that category. And perhaps it was just that one fluke video which kind of touched or whatever. This person or these people clearly being smart enough to be like, how can we replicate this and grow this? So like, taking nothing away from the work involved with managing this and maintaining it, it will go away if ultimately people start watching the video. If they keep promoting the videos and they don't get the same kind of a user engagement, clearly they're not going to keep doing it. So whatever's being done by this channel to keep it up, kudos for that. But how you got there, I think, is what your question is, and I think it might come down to just like, that's just the old spin of the wheel, the roll of the dice.
Just like he hit a home run somehow, and I just don't. I wonder how sustainable it is, especially given the nature of these videos and how complicated these projects are that he's building, these robotic things. You know, he made like this basketball hoop that automatically catches the basketball no matter where you throw it.
Correction, wasn't that done before? Didn't there was yeah, there's a much larger YouTube, Mark Roper, or I don't remember what his name is. I think he's got like 10 or 15 million subs. He did it a long time ago. Or he did the dartboard that you can't it has a sensor in it, and it kept doing a bullseye every single time. I think he did a basketball one as well. Anyways.
Right. I don't know. I think that's the thing. You just ride the wave, and I think
you do.
You hit I guess maybe the lesson is, if you get a video that it goes semi-viral, right then try to figure it out why it did. But I don't think most people do, because usually people make a viral video aren't YouTubers. They're not figuring on trying that, and you know.
And you just can't do it again because no one's going to want to see the same thing. So you need to figure out how to do it again, but make it different and better. And I mean, kudos to anybody who figures that out.
Just the fact that he just has it all dialed in as far as titles and thumbnails is impressive from the start. You know, it's like this guy has been coached, or he knows how to do this stuff. I mean, it's impressive.
How many channels do you see though that do the exact same thing, that just struggle in obscurity, or not even struggle in obscurity, but don't get that kind of, like, I think of maybe in like that builder space, like a person like Frank Howarth or something like that, who's been doing it for years, has great thumbnails, amazing videos, clearly like every single kind of box is checked. But he and Wheezy Waiter was another one for years, went through with just like a moderate sized audience, but just not being able to get traction for one reason or another. And it's certainly not coming down to content or creativity or
he's one of the people I want to ask him to be on the show, because I would love to talk to him about YouTube. I've had a couple conversations with him on that, and he's got an interesting perspective also from a guy who's probably been making videos longer than me. I think he may have started in like 2007. He's been around a long time and producing, I think it was really funny content he was making for so many years. And then he pivoted and just changed it up, and which was a good thing to do, and we talked about this last year, is that whole YouTube life cycle thing, and how channels they'll reach a peak, and it just happens, you know, and then it'll just come down, and hopefully you can kind of, you know, flatten the curve to where it just doesn't completely crash, because we've all seen those channels that are just, you know, practically dead. And, you know, that's of course, that's one of the concerns I always have about my channel, when, you know, I used to get much higher views on videos, and now, you know, I'm happy if I get 50 or 60,000 views on a video, but, you know, I think it's because I'm producing a different type of show now, and so it's more of an episodic kind of vlog style, really, which doesn't really lend itself to, I built a brand new hot tub or something. I don't know why I decided to use hot tub for that example.
Is this like an upcoming video that we should know about? Are you
I
planning?
don't
Have
know,
you
but
thought about building a hot tub?
maybe it's because we were talking about, we want to get one we're having that our whole yard remodeled, and that's one of the things. Remodeled, you don't remodel a backyard, do you? You landscape it. And so
Re-landscape, remodel.
I
Let's
don't
go
know.
with whatever.
Well, we got the sketches from the designer yesterday, and it looks pretty good. But we have to tell them I want to move the hot tub, and because I always want a hot tub, and the only reason I want a hot tub is on cold days. I just want to go out there if it ever snowed here, that would be the day I want to go into a hot tub, because I think there's something really, really cool about that.
That is the best thing about having a hot tub here in Canada, is it doesn't get closed with the pool, and if you have it kind of like tucked in a spot where you can access it, hopping into a hot tub on a super cold snowy night, nothing quite like it.
See, I want that. I wish we get fairly cold here. We'll get down to, almost freezing. A couple times, it'll dip below freezing, and it's not unheard of to have frost on the cars. And so those would be kind of nice days to go out into the. Oh, I know. I want to tell you my story about the stars.
The story about the stars, celebrity stars, or the stars in the sky?
The YouTube star rating system.
Oh, yes. 5 stars. Rate this video. Do you have any videos where that was your call to action? I was trying to find if you did one where it was like, rate this video 5 stars. I couldn't find it. I don't think I ever asked anybody to rate the video, but I remember that, and this was probably in 2010, maybe 2009. And my son Wyatt, he was also making videos, and he was making Lego videos, and he would make these little stop motion, like 30-second videos of the minifigures moving around, and he would use his Legos to do that, and post it on YouTube. And I always remember it was really funny, because when somebody would leave like he wouldn't get very many views on those things, but somebody would leave like a 2-star rating or a 4, and I thought, how odd is it? Somebody's watching 10-year-old kids' videos, and they're like giving it that consideration of thought, and I just imagine like the comic book guy on The Simpsons, it's like,
I am thinking with 3.
Do appreciate the effort that went into this Lego video, but the execution wasn't quite, and I just imagine them doing that for this kid's video. And I don't know, for some reason that just always cracked me up. A 2-star rating on a video made by a 10-year-old.
All that being said, is there a place for the nuance of having a 1 to 5 rating, more so than just basing something off of the like-dislike ratio, which they don't even do? You need to do the math in your head. Right. You need to figure out, it's like, okay, 18,000 likes, 2,100 dislikes. That's
I know.
Is it hard to be like, is that good? Is that better than a video that has 25,000 likes and 700? It just seems so much easier when it was like 3 out of 10. Okay, yeah, I get it. Perhaps some people didn't like whatever, but I'm going to push on because it's not a 1 out of 10. 5 out of 5. Wow, that better be amazing. 4 out of 5. Like you said, you're 10 years old, so work a little bit harder, but you're almost there. I like the nuance of having in between. I remember that was the one change that happened to YouTube, that I became part of the pitchfork people, where it was why are you taking no, don't go to just yes or no. Or if you're just to go to yes or no, just go to yes. You don't need the no.
Facebook
lack of yes says no. You don't need to literally have a negative button to be like, I don't like this. You should be able to be like, watch something, be like, if you don't agree with it, you don't have to like it. But that whole thought of like, if you're going to take away the nuance of, of being able to say it's 2 out of 10 because I appreciate that there's, content, or that there's thought, it's not 1 out of 10, and that gets lost, especially on like videos which have like, you might not be disliking it because of a reason, which that's the overall feeling of the video. Just,
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. There was some talk a while back, and I guess it didn't happen. It is possibly adding a when you clicked dislike, I think it was, it would give you reasons, like 3 or 4 different reasons to click why. I guess nothing ever became of that. I don't even know if that was just rumor or if that was YouTube actually considering such a thing, but I thought that was kind of a good idea, because for one thing, whenever anybody posts a video who has a large enough audience to have people who regularly jump in right when the video is posted, you will always get a dislike before they've even watched the video. I mean, I'll post the video, it's 15 minutes long, and like a minute after I post it, there'll be a dislike. So it's like, there's like somebody there.
Didn't even watch the video.
I know, they're just waiting they just don't like me is the thing. So that should be one of the options. Like, I don't like the host, his hair looks crappy today. It should be it should be something that gives you some options there rather than just dislike. But I like the idea of just having like. I'd be down with that.
Yeah, and the other one that, oh, sorry, hold on for 1 second.
Your equipment is malfunctioning, Chad.
Whoa. There, hold on.
You're back. You're sinking.
So, wow, it's like a live thing, and I completely lost my train of thought again.
It's okay. We have lots of track. Oh man, I get into these discussions, and I sometimes wonder if people like hearing these discussions of old time YouTube, because it is such a different landscape back then, and so much of this stuff has changed and evolved, and sometimes I think it's fun to just talk about that stuff.
I went deep last night on YouTube. I went digging for some older YouTubers, which I haven't heard of or seen in quite a while, and it was a bit of a nostalgic, and perhaps we should dedicate like the meat of an upcoming episode to kind of going through and talking about some of the people who through the course of the platform have inspired us for one reason or another, or who we've just enjoyed or whatnot. And kind of also maybe take a look at where they are. There was a couple people that it was just kind of interesting to see where they are. They're still doing wonderful things, and they're still very much happy. They're just doing it off of YouTube, and they have differing reasons for these things. I saw a great interview with Chasm G, and then there was another YouTuber called Julian Smith, who way back in the day.
I know Julian, yeah.
Malk is probably one of the funniest videos on this platform. If anybody's looking for it, literally if aliens were to come down and be like, give me the perfect example of a YouTube comedy video, I would show them Malk by Julian Smith. Anyhow, so yeah, that might be an interesting conversation, because I got really, really nostalgic going there, and it was really interesting to see what some of these people were doing now.
And I think it's one of the things that a lot of YouTubers, if you're wanting to start making YouTube content, get outside of your own genre and start noticing what other YouTubers are doing. And because I think a lot of what I learned on my channel had nothing to do with watching other woodworking or makers channels, because they're all doing the exact same thing. So I learned a lot from I told you I did that panel with Bethany Moda years ago. It was like the most mismatched panel ever. She's like
Bethany Moda and Steve Ramsey.
I know, it was just so weird. And she's like, I remember being on that panel and thinking, I remember telling, it was like my opening line was, everybody's introducing themselves, and I'm like, I'm Steve, I do woodworking videos, but I'm really thinking about starting a makeup channel too. And so, but I watched a few of her videos, and the way she related to her audience, and the way she would just sit down and speak directly to the camera, and it was just as if she's talking to a friend. And it just struck me as like, I got to do more of this. I love watching how she interacts with her audience, and I've learned more from so many channels other than what I'm doing, my type of channel, and it's been really helpful.
Are you in the best place that you ever have been as far as being happy with the content that you're making right now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you like being able to just let go of the stuff that maybe used to kind of like labor you with extra work and whatever? Is it nice just to like produce something, move on from it, produce something? Because that's one of the things that was the biggest challenge for me doing this podcast, was just to do it, talk, and then allow that to exist and move on to what the next thing, as opposed to what I have been doing for years now with the videos, is putting so much thought into time, and how can I make it just a little bit better and a little bit better, and do this and do that, and keeping each piece as like this sculpted little piece of content, which I put so much work into. And I love just doing this, where I can just allow it to be like, this is what it is, it's coming out, it doesn't need to be edited or curated as much as I want it to be. And now there's a real comfort in that.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And that's the way I feel this year, since I changed the format of my show to a vlog format and brought the audience along with me, is that I am way more relaxed at making videos now. And I've adopted this attitude of, I don't care if I post a video on Friday or Thursday or Saturday, or if I'm done making one, I'll post it on a Sunday night. It doesn't really matter to me as long as I'm producing the content that I find enjoyable and I think people will enjoy, and it lets me interact with my audience in a way that I never have before, because just a couple years ago I posted a video of like how I make my YouTube videos, and I went through the equipment. I mean, here's my process, and I start designing a project, and I build it, and I film it, and I edit it, and the whole thing. And that was the name of the game for me then. And I found that it didn't really matter what I was doing. People want to see me doing stuff, but
yeah.
it's like, it doesn't need to be overcomplicated like that. And I was following, even though I was kind of, one of the first people who kind of developed that entire way of making project videos. You build a project and you talk, and they're all the same. And then I just found that I wanted to get away from that. It's like, everybody's doing that now. What can I do? What else can I do? And just not having to worry so much about the numbers and about the lighting and about the sound, and just is so freeing and so enjoyable. And it's just a kick. I love making my videos now, and I can make just dumb videos. I finished making my bridge for my cats. I put it up in the house today. So now I've got this catification. It goes all the way around our dining room. And so all I needed was 2 bridges to connect the 2. So
Oh,
I
this is
just finished that
incredible.
this morning. So it's that kind of thing I could never have done on my old format of the show, because it takes me time. I have to plan out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. It changes, and I just bring people along with me for that ride. And
Old Steve would have taken the time to do it. Bring
old
back old. What happened to old Steve? Steve, we miss old Steve.
We all miss old Steve.
We launched a video today. It was a supercut video of some previous minimalism habits, along with a few more. We don't try to ever just make a piece of content which is recycled content. However, we have a lot of pieces of content, and you realize that a lot of people who follow us haven't seen a lot of the older pieces. So every so often we do supercuts. Literally the second comment was, so you guys have officially run out of ideas. It's like, I guess you're kind of right, but we're all about recycling here, and we're trying to recycle content. So.
I can't get enough minimalist hacks, though.
I don't think one can. 13 of them, if you're interested.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm seriously. I mean, I love minimalism. I'm obsessed with. Really, to me, minimalism means like getting rid of crap.
Oh,
Get rid of everything. I just love throwing things away. It's like an obsession with me to just get rid of things.
we spend the majority of our lives rushing towards trying to acquire as many things, and then you get there and you're like, I need to get rid of a lot of the things I've acquired. Maybe not a lot, but there's certainly, I think we all have space to be able to free ourselves of stuff which is just sitting around and taking up room, both in our homes, and more so I find the clutter in your head, just like the visual distract. I've always been this way, and Melissa's not this way. This is one of the contrasts between us. Melissa doesn't much care if she's in a room with a thing on the couch and one thing on the floor and kind of some shoes misarranged. I will look around, and if a space feels cluttered or whatnot, it's very hard to relax in that space and unwind and feel content while having something disarrayed and whatnot. So I find the less things that you have on surfaces, the better. And that's actually one of the tips. So now there's only 12 tips for you to go and watch.
That was a teaser.
That was a little teaser.
Yeah, we've got that. There's one place on our kitchen counter, and it's kind of like a far end of the kitchen counter that it forever collects junk. It's just like that.
Everybody's got that spot. That's where the mail goes, right?
Yeah,
and the flyers and that thing for Wyatt and the thing. So one of the things, here you go, here's some added value. Everybody should have a basket, and then you're in charge of that basket. So if it's something which is just for something, someone, it just goes in the basket area, and you have 3 little baskets depending on how many people you live with, and then everything goes in that basket. The only reason it doesn't work here is because my stuff is things like light stands and tripods, and they don't fit in baskets, so we don't do it here.
Speaking of buying too many things, what do you think of unboxing videos?
Oh,
It's just
I'm
weird.
still, I get it, I guess. I know that there's like people just enjoy watching
Is it the satisfaction? I know
I
that like
guess, it's
watching
just
a
odd.
carpet being cleaned, steam cleaned or something like that, that's a satisfying view because you see something messy and whatnot.
Right.
I don't know if it's the same satisfying view. Oh, I saw an AMSR unboxing video.
Oh, you're
You
kidding.
know the sound of
ASMR.
like packages being crinkled and like boxes
You
being
know
opened.
who, David Cronenberg, I think we mentioned him before, the Canadian director. He's one of my favorite movie
Yes.
directors, body horror films. But he had a quote I just loved. He said that the unboxing video is the ultimate expression of consumer fetishism.
It is. You're not
It's
even
like,
you're not even buying it yourself. You're
it's,
just watching someone else open it. And like
yeah,
again, I try to not say any of that stuff with like that's the other thing. I think when you go when you're on YouTube long enough and you've seen that people just like to watch stuff for the sake of watching stuff, and that we all have those guilty pleasures, whether or not
right.
that's yours or not. So I appreciate that people can watch that and find it
Yeah,
interesting. I
exactly.
I
That's it.
don't.
Yeah.
I just
I
I
don't
don't get.
understand it, but maybe we can find somebody that get somebody on here to kind of explain it a little bit
Yes.
better.
So if anybody's listening who has a large unboxing or even not a large unboxing channel, there you
Because
go.
I think if I'm watching somebody unbox something, I would just like scrub to the end and go, oh, there's the thing.
There it is. Oh,
Boom.
great.
I saved you some time. Well, Chad, I think we're coming to the end here.
My goodness, another podcast.
And wow, that guy is making a lot of noise up in the bathroom to be. He's like, he's putting in a new pocket door is what he's doing. And so he hears all this sound. I had a guy, the AC guy came over, and I always have my shop open, and they always ask me, oh, you do woodworking? It's the most common question I get. And and so he was out there, and he came in, and he goes, I should ask for your card because we're moving into a new place, and we might need some work done. I'm like, oh, wait a second, I don't do that kind of work.
I'm sorry, perhaps you.
And he's like, oh, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I make educational videos. I just left it at that. I just couldn't oh, it's YouTube, and I didn't want to get into the whole thing. So I just.
What do you tell people when they ask you what you do?
Well,
let's say you have the safety of being like it's outside your house. It's just someone on the street or whatever. You're getting your hair cut, and your hairdresser asks you, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" What do you tell
it's
them?
funny because it depends upon the person, like, and where I think they are. Like, if I meet some older guy at the gym and I'm talking to him, and he happens to say, what do you do for a living? And I'm just like, oh, I do some woodworking. I kind of lean in on that aspect.
Yeah.
But if it's somebody who wouldn't understand really the woodworking part of it, I'll just say I make videos. And if it's like a professional thing, like a tax form or something where I have to put down occupation, I would just put video production. That's all I do, because that's where I get my money is video and not woodworking.
It's very true, and you're right. I do the exact same thing. So if it's a person that probably wouldn't really even care about that thing, I'm an entrepreneur and run a couple of businesses and this, that, and the other. And if it's someone who, whatever, I jump right to YouTube. Like, it's like, we make YouTube videos. Because I find when you just do like, we're in video production and you don't say that it's YouTube, it sounds like you're doing porn.
Yeah. I know. We film out of it.
It just totally sounds like you're doing porn. So to like, especially when you do it, like the cameras are in your bedroom like they are with our house. Do you know how many times we've like had a camera set up and some person's been in our room and it's like, what's all the camera equipment in your room facing your bed for? Because we make videos on the internet about making your bed. No,
Right.
They never believe that.
Yeah, awkward YouTuber conversations.
Oh my goodness, there's a whole other episode.
It is. It's hard to explain to people what you do, and I try not to really bring it up when people ask, because it usually they're curious about it. I mean, they probably don't know a lot of YouTubers, and so then it opens a floodgate of questions, and I'm not always in a mood to really be getting into that. Oh, how do you make money on that? Where do you go? How do you do? And all this stuff, and So I try to keep it at face level as much as possible.
And as we were talking about in a previous episode, it's interesting that everybody, and I'm the same way. Like I don't like going down the rabbit hole with some people, because it's not about like, oh, what do you do? What kind of, oh, tell us how much money, how do you make money? How does money work with what you're doing? And you wouldn't do that to anybody. Like you ran into someone who's like, I'm a gymnast and I'm working to like be on the 2022 Olympic team. Well, how do you make money? Like where do you stay? How do you make,
Right.
like, who would ask that? But apparently when you're a YouTuber, just no idea how you make money.
This is a lack of understanding. People don't understand YouTube. There's like YouTube culture. There's like the YouTube power user, basically. Like, we use it all the time. We're familiar with everything YouTube, but there's a lot of, probably most people just kind of dip in and out of YouTube,
Yes.
once in a while. They watch a video, or if somebody sends them a link to a video, they'll check it out, and that's about it.
So when they meet a real life YouTuber, you become like the info booth for them. Oh, tell me.
Yeah.
And everybody always does that. Hey, have you seen this channel? They
Oh,
have
yeah.
317 subscribers, and they make cleaning. You do cleaning? Have you seen this cleaning channel? No.
When you say, but do they ever ask you to come clean their house or anything? Because see, I get that with woodworking.
You know what? Melissa used to get that. Like she would. Like it's even when, this was all a thing, but like maybe not to the extent it is now, like a few years ago. Yeah, people would still be like, so how much is it to get you to, clean my house?
Like
so she'd be like, it's like $10,000 an hour if you're down with that.
Yeah,
really. Expensive cleaning.
It's like,
do a
the guy
really
asking
good
me
job
for my card today,
Yeah.
and he's doing it well-meaning. He's like, I've got some work you might be interested in.
It's nice to know that worst case scenario, you'll never run out of, like, you'll always have a side gig. You'll always be able to like make some coasters or like go in, and the best is just to go and find out what work he thought you as a woodworker could do. Because I think the definition between, in his head, he heard woodworkers, so he's literally got you doing roofing or something like that. Or like building the foundation of his house or something.
Yeah,
it's like, it's wood.
Yeah, exactly. And people also think that I like fix things or something, like the plumbing. Like, well, why didn't you fix the plumbing?
So I was going to ask that. Do you generally like get mistaken as just like a universally handy dude that could probably like, you could, why are you? Yeah. So the question is, why do you have someone else fixing your bathroom when you're clearly qualified to do all that work yourself?
Because I don't do that. And that is why I understand plumbing, and I understand how this guy's building the bathroom up there. But whenever I have had to replace a faucet or whatever I have to do, say plumbing, it's going to take me like 3 or 4 times longer than these guys, because I'm going to fumble through it, and I'm probably going to end up with a leak, and I'm going to swear, I'm going to get really pissed off. And it's just like, I don't need this hassle in my life. These guys do this every single day. They're like really good at what they do, and it's just worth it for me to hire a professional who knows their thing,
One of the most popular non-answers we give people who ask questions about cleaning is when people ask questions about like, heavy duty cleaning jobs where clearly the answer is bring in a professional, and then being like, well, no, like, can I just put some vinegar on it or something? Like, it's like, no, you have motor oil on your carpet. Like, you need someone to come in and do an actual job here. So I think it makes you appreciate that. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do, but figure out what that line is between like, how much time is it gonna, cost you, and how much is that worth to you, versus having someone do it much better, more efficiently, and in the long run cheaper. And you can take your time and go and do something that you would enjoy more so than
and a lot of that it comes down to just, it doesn't make financial sense for me to spend an entire day doing something like that I can't earn money on, and so
to save $135 for someone to come out and do a quick fix on something.
You're right. It ain't worth it.
All right, so scratch off my question. I had a couple questions about my furnace and my air conditioner, but I'll go ask someone who clearly knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, replace your filter every 10 years and you'll be fine.
Is it every 10 years?
No, don't listen to me. No, but the furnace filters, they always say you got to do it like every 6 months. And I'm horrible at that. I should set up like a reminder. I could Google on my calendar or something.
Calendar item on your thing every 3 months.
Because every time we'll have a guy will come out, for whatever reason to service it. And he'll go, holy shit, this thing, it is filthy. This is the worst filter.
Can we please just quickly talk about the fact that whenever someone comes to check your furnace for whatever reason, and this is because this has happened twice, the past 2 times someone has, that's when you have the oldest, most decrepit air filter, and they pull it out and it's just caked with dust, and they're like, is this the, it's like, no, well, just this one time I didn't do it in time, and that's why it's really messy. And we had a huge renovation and I didn't replace it.
Filter of shame.
It's a filter of shame, and they hold it up in front of you. It's like when you go to the dentist and you can't lie because they see the plaque on your teeth, and they're like, have you been flossing? And you have to be like, no, I never floss, I'm sorry. We always have this conversation. We always do this back and forth. I always pretend like I'm going to lie, but I can't lie to my dentist for some reason.
Sorry, I didn't floss.
Sorry, I didn't change my furnace filter.
I asked my dentist, not the dentist, the hygienist who cleans your teeth, I'm like, okay, because I always like asking people in different professions, like, what is the worst that's ever happened? I don't know. I just, it's an amusing conversation thing. But so I asked her, I said, have you ever had anybody just come in here who's just like, didn't brush their teeth, just like had food and all this just chocolate or something all over their teeth? And she's like, no, most people clean them. She says, but I don't mind if it comes in here because I know that I'm doing a service and I'm getting it all clean. And she had like this real rosy attitude of like, ooh, that's a challenge. I get to clean all. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep brushing my teeth before I come to dinner. It's like cleaning up your house before the cleaning lady comes, right?
That's exactly it. I want to spend as little time in this chair as possible. Thank you. I'm not going to eat anything. If I don't eat anything for like a week beforehand. So there's no chance of any food being, this is just quick in and quick out, please.
All right, Chad. I think we've overstayed our welcome today.
I think we have. My goodness. All right. Well,
hey, everybody, thank you for listening to this show, especially this long one today. And thank you for finding us on our various platforms and get in contact with us and let us know what you think of the show. I think over on Apple iTunes, you can leave a review. So leave us a good review.
A positive, yeah, 4 out of stars, perhaps 3 out of stars if you think there's room for improvement, but 5 out of 5 stars would be great.
Star over there.
And to all the people who took the time to reach out with either a comment or like a message or whatever,
over on YouTube,
friends and family and people I don't know, but I do now know. Thank you all for listening. The support means a whole lot, so thanks very, very much.
Yeah, we're having a ton of fun doing this and we hope you enjoy it,
and we'll do it again.
All right, see you guys later.
Bye.